Well, good morning, everyone. I'm very pleased to be joining from, as Jim said, in Montana and specifically Bozeman, Montana. And there's a fresh blanket of snow yesterday, and I just watched the sun come up. So I'm feeling very grateful for many things, and of course, for being with all of you this morning. It sounds like this has been quite the journey, and I'm just proud to play a small piece of it. And I just want you all to know I'm someone who really feeds off of feedback and questions and interaction. And so if any point you have a question or something's unclear or you'd like me to go deeper, me feel heard and makes me feel appreciated whenever I'm talking to a group. And so please feel encouraged to speak up and to interact. And I would love that. And then I think Lynn is also going to help me watch the chat in case I miss any questions. Cool. Thanks. I wanted to just, before I start sharing my screen, just get a sense of some of the folks in the room this morning. So if you wouldn't mind putting in the chat just a little bit about yourself. I'd love to know either your profession or your background or a passion of yours, maybe something related to this class, maybe not. And then some place in your life where you find compassion currently, or you see compassion, feel compassion currently. That would be great because it would help me feel a little bit more connected to everybody. And so while you do that, my name is Tia, and I serve as the Executive Director of Compassion Project, which is a nonprofit, non-religious, nonpartisan organization based in Bozeman, Montana, dedicated to spreading compassion through mindfulness and art. So what a cool melding of worlds. So people are coming in through the chat. Oh, do we not have, you can also, do you have maybe people don't have the option to message the entire chat, which is fine. So I'm getting messages. Cool. That's great. I'll just let those come in. Those will just help me feel connected. Cool. All right. Well, then let's dive in. I see people are rolling in, so we'll do the interactive part once people are settled. Can you see my screen all right?
Yes, we can.
Like I said, Compassion Project, sometimes it helps me to hear things twice, but Compassion Project is a nonprofit organization dedicated to spreading compassion through mindfulness and art. We primarily work with adults and teachers, actually. And everything that we do, especially with mindfulness and with art, one of the biggest takeaways, right, is breaking down and questioning and becoming aware of judgments and ways that judgments are hardwired into our brain, and moving into this, which allows us to be more curious about ourselves, our conditions, other people around us, and our environment, right? So I heard that there's some people in this group that are regularly practicing mindfulness. I'm going to lead a short mindfulness meditation exercise, which is really about, right, opening ourselves to curiosity and moving away from judgment. So here you can see our mission and vision kind of written out. I'm a visual learner, so I need to see everything written out. But so yeah, our mission is to cultivate compassion for others, ourselves, and the environment through art, education, and mindfulness. And this is the world we envision. And so to speak a little bit more to the origins of the project, a mentor of mine, Kate Kaminsky, she is the assistant dean of the College of Education here at in Bozeman, Montana State University, which is a university in Bozeman, Montana. And she wanted to bring the community together because there were in 2016, 2017, there was an increase in bullying in our K-12 school system. Children being told to go back where they came from, a lot of political influences and other influences from parents and the world showing up in the classroom and creating this divisiveness that was definitely felt and seen, right? Like on this larger societal level, was negatively impacting children in our community and making it hard for teachers, right, to do their job and to teach and to care, right, for youth. And so she thought that she could bring community members and teachers in particular together around the idea of compassion, and that if we started talking about some of our shared values, and if we started talking about the kinds of behaviors we want to model for children, and we want to see in our classrooms, that would be a positive shift away from don't do this, don't do that, right? And be more of a welcoming and safe environment. And also bridge some of those divides that we are seeing and feeling just as a community as a whole. So she started investigating this question of like, how do you teach kids compassion, or how do you teach adults compassion? And by bringing together local educators and leaders and art educators and kind of people working in racial equity, bringing together several stakeholders here in our own community, they kind of came together to build a curriculum that taught compassion through these pieces of mindfulness and art, and right, which, as I was saying before, kind of we're learning to rewire our brains and allow our actions and words to be more curious rather than more judgmental. And so what kind of ended up happening with that is this curriculum was built, and it was built for K-12, and then we also built an adult education model. We ended up bringing over 200 teachers in our community together to train on this curriculum and to use it in their classrooms. Bless you. Okay. End up bringing over 200 teachers in our local community together that trained on this curriculum, used it in their classrooms, which positively impacted and ended up positively impacting or engaging 6,000 people in our community, right? So we found like, oh man, these teachers, their impact just ripples out, or this workshop at the library ripples out. And through training, probably more like 250 people, once we included the community level, ended up impacting over 6,000. And so the end of the project, if you were a participant, was the creation of, as you can see in the photo, these wooden blocks that were painted with what you learned about compassion. And so this photo here is our local arts center, and on that wall, I think there's probably 200 or 300 pieces of art, and all of those kids in the front, their art is on that wall. And so they came together to go see the art that ended up being displayed. And so that's just one wall. We ended up filling this entire art center with art, with about 6,000 pieces of art. Someone told me they thought it was the largest display of art in Montana. That may be true. That record may have been broken, but it took us about 3 weeks of like regular labor to install the whole thing, which was really fun and a lot of work. Are there any questions so far? I do just want to come back and see how people are doing. It's just lovely to see all of your faces.
I am wondering about the curriculum you developed collaboratively. Is this curriculum shared nationwide through your organization?
Yeah, so I'll go into those details a little bit more, but it's a great question, and I'm happy to speak to it a little bit right away because um, these 4 lessons are developed for K-12, and then we have specific versions for K2, 3, 5, 6, 6, 8, and 9, 12. And they meet Montana. We wanted to make it right, like local to Montana. And I think there are aspects of this that do transfer across state lines. But the curriculum itself satisfies Montana core learning standards, as well as the things that will help it translate across state lines. And we have worked with people outside of Montana, worked with teachers outside of Montana. Is it satisfies national school counselor standards as well. So there's this social emotional learning component, as well as national arts learning standards. So it is somewhat specific to Montana, and that is definitely a direction I'm excited to potentially grow the project, is to offer this right too as an alternative to, it can really be about what is the culture of our classroom? How do we repair harm when harm is done in the classroom compassionately? Because currently in schools, and in larger society, we have a punitive model, right? Of you do something wrong and then you get punished for that, instead of you do something wrong or that somehow harms someone else. And what would it look like if we tend to that hurt that happens when someone does harm, on the behalf of the person who did the harm and on behalf of the person who was harmed. And so it's not the end all be all, but these are the sorts of conversations that we're hoping is starting to happen in schools, amongst teachers in how they can work with those students that, because we also know too that a lot of times the students that are causing more behavior, more problems in the classroom are likely in higher need of care and compassion themselves, or experience some sort of trauma or come to school with some sort of trauma in their life. So I'll go a little bit more into that in a second, but I love the question. Thank you, Donna. And so this slide just kind of quickly summarizes some of the benefits of mindfulness and art. Benefits of mindfulness: reducing stress, decreasing anxiety, promoting emotional health, decreasing depression, enhancing self-awareness, right? So all these different physical and mental health benefits, and really looking at health as all of these different aspects of our life, our spiritual health, right? Our emotional health, our mental health, our relational health, all of these different pieces. And then art, some of the takeaways: externalizing thoughts and feelings in a way that words cannot. And I'm reading these out. I typically don't like to read my slides, but I realize that the text might be kind of small. So thank you for letting me read these out. 2, offers a tangible way to think through challenges via the safety of metaphor, like an emotional mapping tool, right? So and this is right, maybe getting in a little bit into art therapy, which I'd be curious. You probably have had people come and present around art therapy. We're not art therapy, but we are. How can we build awareness around the natural therapeutic benefits of creative thinking and art making? So they're a little bit different, like therapy using art as a tool specifically to heal trauma or to dive into trauma or to diagnose, right? But also as humans that have been doing art for tens of thousands of years, why is that? And it is, and I think at the root, it's something that's imperative for our well-being as a species. And then lastly, to lessen dichotomous thinking and allowing for seeming opposites to coexist. I'm happy to share these slides after too, if that's something that people are interested in. Cool. I do want to see if people would like to. I'm just seeing like everyone's logged on now. I've rambled for a bit. Might be good to take a stretch, and I'd love to lead us through just a short 2 or 3 minute mindfulness exercise to just create some presence and some groundedness in the moment. Um, how does that feel for people? Can I get a thermometer? Like, that's my vote, not my vote. Everything's welcome. Okay, great. Thanks. All right. So I welcome you to actually look around your space, and you can turn your video off if you'd like. But maybe find a position that allows you to feel comfortable, but also alert and awake, right? So for me, that's usually sitting, but for some people, this might be standing. For some people, this might be lying flat on the ground. You might have a favorite chair that's in the room. And if you mute, or if you come off video, you can still hear me if you move to that chair. So you're welcome to find any position that is comfortable for you and you can feel awake. And we're just going to be here for a couple minutes. And then I welcome, as you're settling in, to just really feel that place that you are, whether it be the texture of the chair, the feeling of your feet, all four corners, right? Like all your toes and your ball of your foot and your heel grounded in the earth and on the ground. What it feels like for your feet to be in your socks or in your shoes, right? So really bringing awareness there, and then bringing the awareness to the seat and then to your spine. And if you can, just lengthening your spine up. And again, that just being, an opening to the room, an opening of your heart, and a lengthening of that spine so that we can cultivate some awareness and stay awake. And then if you'd like, you might even let your eyes flutter closed. And if that is not available to you, go ahead and let your gaze just rest on something, maybe slightly down past your nose, just something in front of you, just a soft awareness there with your eyes open or closed. Now with the eyes closed, notice how that just even closing your eyes, and if they're not, that's okay too. But if your eyes are closed, just how that shift offers a different kind of space for your awareness. And I invite you now to bring your awareness to your breath, this companion that is always with us. And feel an in-breath. And we're not changing our breath, right? We're noticing our breath. We're welcoming our breath as we might a friend. Feel your body softly rise on each inhale and soften on each exhale. And again, not changing the breath, but just noticing it. What if the breath were a wave, something with an energy all of its own? And watch that wave rise and then fall. Rise and kind of reach the crest and fall. And on each exhale, maybe try letting go and letting your body completely relax. So bringing awareness to your forehead, letting the forehead relax, your jaw, Maybe you're clenching, letting the jaw relax, your neck, your chest, and maybe even your heart. Letting your heart open and letting your body relax. Let go. And now let's bring the awareness back to the breath. And as you breathe in, maybe there's a direction to your breath. Maybe there's an upward direction. Maybe just experiment with what would it be like to bring that breath actually down. So as you breathe, can you feel your lungs expand? And as you breathe, can you feel your belly expand? And as you breathe, can your breath be lateral? Can it move across your body rather than up? And slowly begin to just deepen the breath, gently, taking care of the breath as you would a friend. And on each exhale, just let go. Just settle in, relax. Maybe find gratitude for something today or something in your life. Maybe gratitude even for something in this present moment. What does that gratitude feel like? Can it be this warmth or this light or another feeling that just radiates out from your body? Can you offer gratitude to yourself? All that you have weathered, all that has brought you to this moment. The, the wonderful, complex, achieving, gracious human that you are, having gratitude for yourself. And if this is difficult, it's okay. Maybe just try extending this gratitude. And if it doesn't feel right or it doesn't land, that's okay. And bring the awareness to the breath. Fill your lungs and your belly. And on an exhale, feel your feet on the ground or your body wherever it's finding support. Maybe bring awareness to your toes and your fingers. Notice maybe how your breath has changed since the beginning of this exercise. And just check in with your body, see if there's a stretch you might need, and you're welcome to take that stretch. And without opening your eyes, kind of bring your presence back into the room. Um, bring your awareness back to sounds maybe in the room or smells or the chair you're sitting in. And thank you for sharing this practice with me. And when you're ready, go ahead and let your eyes slowly flutter open. And if your eyes have been open, maybe find something else in the room that is welcoming your attention. Maybe it's a light. I have a beautiful lamp right here, or maybe it's something outside, a tree, or the blueness of the sky, or the snow coming down. And thank you very much for practicing with me. um, and I really appreciate it. I'm curious, would a couple people come off mute and just maybe share how that was for them? So thank you for naming that, right? That this is something that is accessible for some people and not as accessible for others. And there's no judgment attached to that. But I really really appreciate you naming it, because I think for me, what it brings up is like, what are other ways that we can offer for people to engage with this idea of mindfulness, and that there's actually a whole family of techniques, some of which involve chanting or walking. I'm a very active person as well. And so some days I can't sit still and I need to do a walking meditation. And just as I'm walking, bring awareness to every step, or just awareness to the thoughts I'm having while I'm walking. And so thank you. And I apologize if that wasn't the most enjoyable activity for you. Yeah.
I think this is partly the, being in the DC metropolitan area, everybody here is used to being, the natural state is being intense. And it's kind of refreshing to have this kind of Western, to me, it's a Western, more open space kind of relaxation.
Totally. Yeah, I've never been to DC. I've always wanted to go, and I'll have to go. But I hear that it's that even living in a larger city could maybe be, and also the specific area that you are in being rather intense, and all eyes probably being on that part of the country all the time. Thanks for sharing that, Jim.
I really appreciate your metaphor when you said welcome the breath as if it's a friend. To think of your breath both inside and outside, it's a friend that you take with you. I really love that. I'm going to borrow that. Thank you.
Yes, please do borrow it. That's something that's helped me along my journey of learning self-compassion, because this is actually really common in American society, that we are trained and we're more likely to extend compassion to other people and less likely to extend it to ourselves. And so that's been a really hard thing for me to learn how to do. But thinking of my behavior towards other people as a way that I might treat myself has been very helpful. So I'm glad that it stood out to you too. Well, and I think an interesting thing too is that there's like now actually spiritual communities, right, have been doing meditation or prayer or different things like this, right, for all of human history. And now the scientific evidence of those benefits is really catching up. And so I love that it's a great entry point for me. I come from a Christian spiritual background as well, but it's been a great entry point for me into people that have no religious spiritual background at all, or do, because now it's kind of crossing different lines, and it's a different way of there's lots of different ways for people to kind of access these similar ideas. So thanks for sharing that. It's really exciting to me that more and more people are practicing, because I think too, as we think about, and we see this with youth especially, that the world that our youth today are growing up in is very different than the world 50 years ago, 100 years ago, because of technology, right? And so, and also just a lot of other reasons. And so that connectedness can also, or that just constant flood of information and access to information that maybe isn't age appropriate, or also being bombarded with trauma, like literal trauma happening out in the world constantly, can produce, right, more anxiety, more depression, more self-doubt, all these different things. And so I think it's really important that mindfulness is kind of coming in and counteracting this pendulum swing towards, this intense connectivity towards like, okay, and how do we have boundaries and take a deep breath and connect with ourselves, and connect with our immediate community. So those are just some things that we've been thinking about. Thanks for sharing. Thanks for everyone who came off mute. I'm going to go back a little bit more into some specifics about Compassion Project, if that's okay. And then I'd love to just have some discussion at the end and some questions. Or just, I'd love to learn more about what you all are up to as well. So currently we have 2 programs. That first program is what I kind of described, which was kind of the inception of the project. And it's now called our Compassion Classrooms program. And so any teacher, any K-12 teacher, or any educator really can go to our website and begin this program. And it works great in a cohort, but also works great if an individual teacher is looking for this lesson plan to introduce it into their classroom. And we'll essentially work with those groups one-on-one, and kind of support them through the learning of the curriculum, the teaching of the curriculum, and then a debrief of what that process was like for them, what went well, what could have been improved. So that's our Compassion Classrooms program. And then we also have an Art for Resilience program, which was just started when COVID hit, right? So in April for Montana, end of March, April. And we developed a lot of the different ideas in Compassion Classrooms, built those out into actual videos that could be shared, because so many teachers were starting to teach remotely and were expected, right, like overnight, to have ways of teaching remotely or online. And so we wanted to provide some tools there. And this is actually morphed into workshops that we offer to the community. So we would have a Zoom class like this, and we would actually offer one of our workshops to members of the community as well, because we know that so many people are feeling isolated or disconnected or looking for ways to connect and build community. So those are 2 different programs right now, and they just look a little different depending on working with teachers who are eventually going to go work with kids, or working with adults who might just be looking for, a way to, do something with their best friend on a Thursday night. Or we also are working with caregivers. So we know that nurses, social workers, caregivers of any kind, even unpaid caregivers, people who are caring for a loved one right now, are experiencing just high levels of stress and burnout. Teachers already, before the pandemic, were, I think 50% or something, were likely to leave the education realm in the first 5 years of teaching. And so how can we provide care for those expected, and providing the most amazing care within our communities? So those are some projects that we've been working on now. And this is so text heavy, but I'll just read one bit of this. While 24% of teachers reported their students definitely understood what it meant to be compassionate prior to completing the project, afterward, they reported that 80% of their students definitely understood what it meant to be compassionate. And so that was just exciting to see the teachers reporting, yes, like talking about the students are actually comprehending and talking about compassion and recognizing it. So here's just a few photos. I think visuals are always helpful. We did some teacher training in Great Falls, and we actually do the curriculum that the teachers go and do with their students. We do it with them first. And so they're kind of, right, like taken back to what it's like to be a student, or what it's like to receive and participate and practice mindfulness and art themselves before they go and teach it to their kids. Because I think experience is the best teacher, right? So our workshops are very, very interactive. They're not really a lecture, and it makes it a lot more fun, and I think it increases the learning that happens. And so this came, this artwork comes from a bunch of teachers who are like, I can't draw, I can't paint. And then it's just like, wow, look what happens when we try something new, when we welcome, our uniqueness, and when we empower people, we give people what they need to express their creativity. It's like, oh my gosh, you are amazing. You can draw, you can paint. Don't let anybody tell you that that's not true, because you can. And so while we really focus on the process, so we really focus on what does it feel like to paint? What colors are speaking to you today? There's also this, this kind of feeling of success that also comes from making a tangible object and having this thing that I can put up on a wall, or I can share with my students, and share with my community at the end of the day. This summer, we visited 3 different caregiving or elders facilities in the Bozeman area. And because they couldn't receive visitors for months and months, we went and we did chalk drawings outside of their facility, and left posters and made posters that they could see on their grounds or from their windows, or some of them would walk around the grounds and so we made a bunch of art that could just stay with them for a little while. And that was really meaningful and really fun. And it was also kind of this culmination of, okay, so we're learning about compassion, but what does it actually look like when we practice it? What does it actually look like when we recognize the suffering that other people are experiencing and do something to actually remedy or change that environment that maybe is causing suffering? And then these are some of the larger installations that we've done in different theater. The one on the left is a local theater. The one on the right is a grocery store. And so these are just some of the places where we've also been able to share some of the artwork in our community so that other people can see it.